Creepsilog.
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 Hey guys, what's up? This is Glenn from Creepsilog. If you're discovering this video from YouTube and you're not familiar sa Creepsilog, we are a Pinoy horror and true crime podcast and may kapartner ako doon si Gideon, but we also record stuff for YouTube separately. That's why we have solo sessions. And for tonight's solo session, meron tayong special guest which is Ron from the podcast Cinephiles. And hey
Yeah.
Ron, welcome to
What up?
Creepsilog solo sessions. Kumusta ka?
Okay naman. Excited na maghasik ng lagim dito.
Mm. Wait, tell us something about your podcast na rin para maging familiar yung mga nanonood.
Sure. Actually, we've collaborated with Creepsilog. Technically, this would be our third time na. But yun nga, this will be my first solo collab. Which is first... Ay, wait lang, but that doesn't sound right.
Oo nga eh.
Actually, hindi naman wala namang problema sa akin, pero bigla kang tumawa sa parang doon ko na-realize na may mali doon. Your dirty, dirty mind. Pero yun nga, this is my third collab na with Creepsilog, no? Pero we have a podcast as well with my co-host Jerfy. We do movie reviews. We talk anything related to films. We also have directors and anyone from the film industry to talk about how the sausage is made. So if you are interested in those kind of things, we are available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts.
Yeah,
Thank
tama.
you.
Shout out Jerfy. So, Cinephiles and Creepsilog are both part of Bunk. So, shout out din sa ating mga bunk mates.
Yeah.
Ayan. So, in-invite natin si Ron tonight. Specifically, kailangan si Ron kasi siya ang horror king.
Emphasis on ho, yeah.
No, emphasis on ho. At ang topic din natin ay sex scenes in horror movies. So, perfect talaga si Ron.
Hala!
Diba?
Kala mo naman di pinag-usapan.
Nag-alala ka ba bigla? Ayan,
Okay.
napaka-scholarly ng discussion tonight. And
Very
nag-prepare
much,
pa kami,
yeah.
nag-iis pa kami. Oo.
Thesis pa.
So, pareho tayo, Ron, na mahilig sa horror movies. And meron tayong isang napapansin, which is what led us to this topic tonight. Napansin natin na kadalasan sa horror movies, kahit anong klaseng horror yan, whether slasher or yung mga supernatural, thriller, laging may nasisingit na sex scenes, kadalasan. And
Yeah.
ano yung take mo doon? Why do horror movies include a sex scene?
Yun ba yung tanong? Kala ko may kasunod ka sasabihin. Inaantay ko kasi naman. Okay.
Ang awkward ba
Visit
nung cut? Sige.
Oo. Kala ko, okay, sige. I think it goes way back talaga nung, I'd like to say 80s, pero I think even before that, talaga when horror movies started, sex was a huge part of it. Because, ayun nga, in the most commonly known phrase talaga, sex sells. And I think it was part of the charm ng mga horror films noon na, like, no matter how bad or cheesy or B horror or campy it could be, parang for some reason they have to insert sex talaga kasi their target demographics were teenagers, diba? And of course,
True.
teenagers
Yeah.
usually gravitate towards sex. So parang sa kanila, it's something na they are expecting na in the movie na parang okay, pinatay siya, ginat siya and all. But where's the sex, diba? So ayun, apparently it's in the next scene na mga ganyan.
Yeah.
For
Ang
me.
ganda. I love
Yeah.
how you put that. Kasi, ang naisip ko naman, sometimes they put yung sex, the sex element or yung sex scenes. Minsan naisip ko, pinahaba lang nila yung story. Minsan kasi yung mga horror movies na wala talagang Wala talagang may offer much.
Walang
Lalagyan
sustansya.
na lalagyan nila lang ganyan. So, feeling minsan gano'n. Nakakatuwa nga kasi minsan yung sex is just a few seconds lang or minsan lengthy talaga siya. But
Yeah. Or
still,
madami.
it just shows that the characters got laid. Pero minsan wala naman din kinalaman dun sa story. So, ilalagay na lang nila. Pero I liked how you put it na there's a target market for it. And
Yeah.
added na pang-attract yun.
And if I may add, you did say na, I mean, no matter what the subgenre of the horror film, pero most commonly known kasi siya for slasher. And one
Ah,
of the
yeah.
horror slasher trope talaga is, di ba, number one rule is when you have sex, you die.
You
And of
die.
course,
The
yeah, di
next
ba, if they're
scene,
gonna
patay.
slash some teens in the movie, they have to have
Mm,
sex in the movie. So I think
true.
it's one way for them to advance the plot then. For some I mean, surface level, we just see them as very unimportant or parang unnecessary. But I think,
Mm,
yun nga, parang if you dissect it, feeling ko, kailangan talaga din yan.
true. Tapos nasabi mo na it started way, way back. So naisip ko din, baka it's because horror films always had this need to push yung boundaries of
Mm-hmm.
filmmaking or storytelling na laging taking risks. And putting
Mm-hmm.
nudity and sex as part of that freedom na inaalaw sa mga horror movies that are not afforded sa ibang mga genre like comedy or mga serious drama. But for horror movies, they put it there and still it feels natural, hindi siya out of place, which is why minsan yung mga sex scenes sa horror movies, yun pa yung naaalala natin more than yung mga sex scenes
Actual
talaga
things.
sa mga sexy movies talaga, 'di
Yeah.
ba?
That's a great point kasi like may violence and gore na why would they hold back on sex? That just doesn't make sense, diba? So they are really for pushing boundaries.
True. And speaking of
Definitely.
not holding back, eto na magsisimula na tayo sa ating segment which we call Common Swap. Where we come together and swap yung mga
Kainis.
movies yung mga movies with really memorable sex scenes. Horror movies with unforgettable sex scenes. So, sinong gustong
Mhm.
maunang mag-come
Shit.
and
Ayoko
swap?
nang nauna eh. Char! Sige, ikaw na, ikaw na.
For me, well, nabanggit natin kanina whether kahit anong subgenre, merong mga
Mm-mm.
slasher thriller. My first entry, dami nating innuendos din. Pero my first one is Midsommar, which is, alam natin, medyo supernatural yung dating. Unforgettable siya sa akin. Well, i-describe na natin yung sex scene that happened
Okay.
I think nasa may bandang gitna or patapos na.
Towards the
They
end na
were,
yun eh. If I'm thinking of the same sex scene na. Is
they
this the
were
one with
performing
Christian?
the ritualistic
Yeah.
na sex scene. Oy, by the way, bigyan na siguro tayo ng mga spoiler alert. No?
Ay,
We'll
okay.
try not to spoil too much of these movies. Tsaka muluma na rin naman to mga to. Pero
Kaya nga.
if we spoil the story a little bit, then yun, pagbigyan nyo na.
Proceed with caution na lang.
Yes, tama. And yun nga yung medyo ritualistic yung sex scene doon. Assisted sila nung mga members nung group na yun and they were all
Cult.
watching. Tapos some of them are even pushing yung butt ni nung guy
Christian.
into the girl kasi ang purpose
Paint
nila
the
is
picture muna. Like, what's the scene? What's going on? Like, what can they see dun sa scene?
hindi ko ma-picture. Sige, ikaw nga. Paki-describe mo nga yung scene.
So it's basically they're having sex with group of old women around them, staring and watching them. So
Mm.
literal na parang you're like literally having sex in front of a lot of people. And
Ay,
they're
so how's that
moaning
different
as
sa
you are moaning.
how's that different sa mga nag-OnlyFans?
That's just a normal Thursday for me. Sabi ng iba. Diba?
Ayan, so part siya
Ayun.
ng cult. And I think kaya nila ginawa yun because they want their member, yung girl, na ma-impregnate ng somebody from outside.
Yeah.
Kasi para magkakamag-anak na ata sila lahat doon. wala nang ano, wala nang outsider na lalaki. So that's why
Yeah,
they
parang
did
I
that.
think tradition din nila yun eh. Parang ganun.
Mm.
Pero why was this important to you? Or why was this a part of your top 5 favorite sex scene?
Unforgettable siya sa akin kasi it's the first movie na nakita ko yung ganong ritual na um, ginawa nila ginawa nila yung sex as part of a ritual. Ang first ko pala nakita ng ganun was sa Da Vinci Code. May ritualistic sex scene dun, although it's not a horror film. Pero parang ganun din, parang group setting din yung sex, and it's they're performing some sort of ritual or prayer at dun naka-incorporate yung sex. While in Midsommar, which is a horror film, kaya ko siya hindi rin makalimutan because it's part of the plot, and hindi
Yeah.
siya yung siningit lang for purposes na to just to add some sex scenes to the movie. Parte talaga siya,
Mm-mm.
which is kaya ko siya nagustuhan, kaya ko siya hindi makalimutan. And ikaw ba, gusto mo ba tong movie na to, tong sex scene na to?
Oh, definitely. The whole film as a whole. Even, in fact, Cinephile did a review on this particular film. So, shout out. So,
Lagay natin
pa-promote
yung
lang
link.
ulit.
Oo.
Ayan. Pero you also have to mention like what the scene that comes after it. Kasi there was an explicit male nudity, male
Oh yeah,
frontal
oo.
nudity after it, which is quite rare in horror films. That's another thing then that's quite a topic in sex scenes in horror films. Kasi normally, it's very gratuitous when it comes to female nudity. Like, wala silang
Mm.
holding back, like boobs, sometimes
True.
hairy,
Pubic
female
region,
genitalia,
ganyan.
kumbaga. Yeah, nether region. Pero when it comes to, like, guys, parang very, siya. Alam mo yun?
Di masyado. Oo nga.
So for this, parang, ay, walang ganun. Like, it's literally the main lead, um, who's a guy running naked, butt naked talaga. Ayun.
Totoo yan sinabi mo, oo nga, no? Kasi parang in the previous years, sobrang bihira, not even sa horror genre lang, kundi sa lahat, na mayroong
Mm-mm.
male frontal nudity on screen. And sometimes kapag pinalabas sa sinehan, kinakat nila yung scene na yon. Mapapanood mo lang yung scene na yon kapag if you
Director's
own
cut,
if you own a
ganyan.
DVD, ganyan, oo.
Yeah.
Or if you
Double
download it
standards
somewhere.
nga talaga.
Mm. Tapos may din, siguro until now, may difference kapag flaccid or erect. Parang if it's
That's
flaccid, it's
true.
acceptable. Pag erect na, medyo mapapunta na sa porn yan.
Oh, pero I've seen a horror film recently where there was a scene with a naked guy and his dick was erect. Like,
Anong movie to?
Violation. I think it was Violation. Yeah.
Ano napapanood
I was
ko
really
eh.
surprised. Sabi ko, shit, how is this not porn? Sabi ko nga eh. Pero then in my mind, then I was thinking, why can't they show, yun nga, female, nether regions on a sex scene? Pero pag guys, like, suddenly it's like, shocking, di ba? They should really show more scenes like this in horror
Baguhin mo
movies.
yan. Pag
I'm not complaining.
gumawa ka na ng movie, puro male nudity.
Sige. Ikakas kita. Available ka ba? Dahil sinadjust mo yan eh. Sige.
Shit.
Panindigan natin yan na. Sige.
Ayan. So that's my number one entry into this common swap session. Ikaw, your turn.
Okay, my first entry, I'll compliment it to your entry kasi yours is, like, your first pick is very, hindi ko napaka-meaningful niya. Alam mo yun, sa akin, it's napakababaw lang muna. Umpisa ko sa mababaw, no? So, my first pick is a sex scene from an old Friday the 13th movie. I'm not even sure kung anong part na to. Like, I think it was in the third or the fourth one. And it's really hard to distinguish kasi lahat ng parts naman ng Friday the 13th ay merong sex scenes. It is a part, kumbaga it's as common as Jason Voorhees in this franchise. You can't have Friday the 13th without Jason and sex scenes. So there's this particular scene where there are two summer camp. I don't know if they're counselors or they're supposed to be teenagers here. Pero parang they're inside an RV, recreational vehicle, and they're like having sex on the, I don't know, like, sige, I guess bed siya pero nasa loob kasi siya ng kotse or sasakyan.
Mm.
And I remember this because it was really hot. Like, I literally, this was a huge part of my teenage life.
Ay, sexual awakening.
A part of sexual awakening because I had to watch this scene several times alone because I enjoy the scene so much.
Forward mo na lang doon.
Yeah, naka-bookmark na siya. Like, alam ko na yung timestamp. Kasi di ba pwede ka before sa DVD, I don't know if kalam pa ng mga kabataan yan ngayon. Like sa DVD before, pwede ka maglagay ng timestamp para diretso ka na doon, di mo na kailangan i-forward. So, alam ko na yung timestamp niya mismo para hindi na ako mahirapan.
Tsaka alam mo yung A-B repeat?
A-B, yeah.
Yes.
A mo doon, tapos sabi kung saan maglo-loop. Ayun. So, the scene is just basically two people having sex. Wait lang, i-YouTube mo to, no? I hope hindi tayo ma-flag because of the topic pala, no? I realized. Okay, anyway. So, yun nga. And it was really hot because the way that they were portraying it, is parang, it's just realistic with all the moans and all. And then, one of the thing that made it memorable is how Jason Voorhees, unalive them. So they use unalive term in TikTok kasi para daw hindi maban, para dun sa word na
hindi ma-trigger. Okay.
Yeah, but they unalive them kasi parang it was kaya ko tinawag na double penetration daw kasi parang literal na isang eme lang. Ganyan siya.
Dalawa silang na.
Sabay. Yeah. Like, in-stab sila ng machete na sabay. So there. But, di ba, wala siya masyadong, alam mo yun, concept and depth. But the scene was really hot and kumbaga, yun nga, definite, in terms of advancement and all, it definitely advanced Jason's body count. So there. Ayun. Yun lang, di ba? Ang babaw.
Hindi kasi, slasher kasi. So, parang expectation na natin yan. Alam na.
Oh.
If the characters are teenagers, alam mo na kung anong kasunod niyan. Tas summer camp pa.
Diba?
Parang combination ng hormones and walang supervision ng mga magulang. The perfect recipe for these kinds of scenes. And hanggang ngayon nga ginagawa siya. Like, if you've watched Fear Street.
Yeah.
Diba? Ganun din. Parang there's always those two horny teenagers na magsisneak and do something and then after nila gawin saka sila mapapahamak and before
it's
you
the
know
perfect
patay na yung
formula
isa.
talaga. I think it's the best setup for a good kill scene.
Maybe because
Kasi
it
nga, yeah.
ano,
It's an unwritten
it lowers
rule, eh.
your parang it lowers your guard dun sa killer. It makes you forget na may killer kapag ka ginagawa pa lang nila yan. And then pagtapos na biglang may mapuputulan na ng something, may masastab, ganun, which parang shocking siya bigla. So it's the calm before the storm. Ganun.
In terms of enjoyment of the audience, yes. Pero alam mo ba that there's also a deeper study about this? That there was a book written about a textbook final girl. And sabi dun sa book na yun that the textbook final girl has to have morals. Kaya nga lagi na sinasabi that the final girl has to be a virgin. She has to have kumbaga dapat hindi pa siya nagda-drugs. Kasi 'di ba usually ganun yung mga horror movies, they're considered of very promiscuous and morally loose, kumbaga teenagers. So dapat yung final girl yung naiiba sa kanila. So normally, yung mga teenage na nagpapakita nagdi-display ng ganong morals, yun yung mga nakikeme, diba? Kakakeme nila.
That's right. Kaya din hindi sila nag-engage sa sex. Tapos sila yung magsusurvive.
Diba?
Furthering the idea na kapag nakipag-sex ka, mamamatay ka.
Kasi as an audience, you root, supposedly, you're supposed to root daw for the nice girl, parang
Pure, the
yung
virgin.
pure, exactly, diba? It's our obsession supposedly with purity, the idea of a virgin woman. But that was a thing in the past, feeling ko naman.
Feeling ko din. Hello. Kung
Mm.
pinapatay ang
Very,
mga
very.
hindi na virgins ngayon, Diyos ko, ako na lang natira. My
Buti nga
God.
safe pa ako eh, grabe. So
I'm
worried
gonna miss
about
you
my...
all. Okay, tayo na lang naiwan, Ron. Ano ba yan?
Huwag ka mandamay. Huwag mong damay yung sarili mo. You're a slut. You're a slut. Ayun.
By the way, number 2, change
Di ba na lang?
topic. Move on
Okay.
na tayo sa ano. Is it my turn again? Okay,
Yeah.
tapos na tayo dun sa ano.
There's nothing much to say about my first pick. Yun lang yun. It's just hot. Kaya
Well,
favorite ko siya.
it's creative, and since part siya ng sexual awakening mo, it must be really
Definitely.
memorable. Speaking of sexual awakening, para sa akin naman, kasi napanood ko to bata-bata pa din ako, like elementary ako. It's the movie
So this was in the
Species.
80s.
Hoy,
Okay.
hindi, 90s.
Ay, hindi ba?
Species, starring Natasha Henstridge, and eto naman, ang
The first one.
plot net, the first one, ito yung pinakamaganda. She was an alien, and she needed to reproduce, parang ganun. She needed to spread yung kanyang species on Earth. And female siya, so she had to hook up with many different guys. Parang ganun yung pagkakaalala ko sa movie na yun. And so there were plenty of chances na magkaroon ng sex scenes. And it was worked into the plot. So hindi siya out of place. Kasi nga, yun yung purpose niya. So baka then, if you're like one of the writers or producers and you just want to put a sex scene in a horror movie, ganito mo siya gagawin. It's a part of the plot na hindi mo matatanggal kasi parte siya ng story. She
Ng
needed
story.
to reproduce, di ba?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yun. Hindi ko na maalala ko anong specific kasi sa sobrang dami. There was a hot tub scene, ganyan. Pero I remember, I liked this movie nga din. Probably the same reason that you liked, yung sa Friday the 13th. May mga inulit-ulit din akong parts.
Oh my God.
And-
VHS pa to nung time na to, no? So, ang hirap pa, diba?
Alam mo, totoo.
Diba? Sorry for calling you out.
Hindi ko kayang i-deny kasi totoo, VHS nga. My
Okay.
God.
At least di Betamax, diba?
Hindi na.
Pero no,
Betamax.
I definitely remember this film. And yeah, sobrang dami scenes talaga dito to treasure.
Totoo. Tama ba? Nagkaroon tayo ng episode where we talked about sexual awakening in movies.
Mhm.
Parang may naalala akong ginawa natin ganun. No?
I think natakal natin siya, but I don't think that was the main topic.
Saan natin ginawa yun? Sa podcast nyo o sa amin? Shit.
I can't even remember. I can't recall.
Oh, pero,
Kung
hindi. Sa Calamansi. Yan.
Ay, oo, Calamansi. Tama. Sa
That's why
EE.
wala tayong record na ito. But,
Oo nga, no? Oh my God, nakakamiss.
pero hindi ko nabanggit itong species na doon sa movie. Alam mo, important sa atin in our formative years, yung mga napapanood talaga natin. Kasi it influences us kahit pagtanda na natin. Who would have thought na yung napanood mong Friday the 13th, maalala mo pa hanggang ngayon?
Diba? Like, you can't recall the exact part of the film, pero yung scene, can definitely imagine it very vividly.
Tapos nung bata pa tayo, we have zero exposure to porn. Hopefully, di ba? Sana naman wala.
Yeah.
So, this is the closest.
Na-discover ko lang yung porn nung nag-Twitter ako eh.
Ay, ang late mo na nag-Twitter.
Yeah. Like last month lang. Kala mo naman. Pure. Final girl, bakit?
Ikaw na lang matitira sa mundo. Gusto mo.
Yeah.
And nung bata tayo, wala nga tayong access sa porn. So, this is the closest that we could get.
Definitely, yeah. Tsaka there's a thrill Kasi parang, you know what, parang,
Oo,
pag pinapanood mo,
tama.
lalo na, no, if you're watching the film for the first time with your family, tapos biglang may dumaang scene na
Ay,
gano'n, parang,
diba?
okay, you know what, mamaya uulitin ko.
Mamaya
Gano'ng
ka sa
moment, di ba?
mamaya ka sa
Kunyari, hindi ka
diba?
titingin-tingin kasi, di
Ala,
ba,
ano ba
napapanood
na
mo siya.
conscious ka? Inom ka
Kunyari,
tubig
ka,
muna sa kusina.
oo, okay, CCR ka muna.
Totoo
Tapos
yan.
pagbalik, ay, anong time yun? Yeah.
True. Alam, ano pa, nung bata tayo, shit, nalimutan ko yung sasabihin ko. Pero, ako din noon, kahit kissing scene, lumalayo talaga
Talaga.
ako. Nako-conscious talaga ako. So, umaalis ako. Tapos ito, di ba noon, walang internet. Tapos kung ano lang yung
Ay,
nakalagay
sa
sa
amin meron na
likod,
kasi.
ayun ka.
Sorry.
Magre-rely ka dun sa description ng movie sa likod at kung ano yung rating niya. So, minsan hindi na napapansin yun. So, papanoorin mo with your family only to find mag-uumpisa siya sex ka agad. Yung gano'n, so ang awkward kasi parang ang term pa nun is, ay, bold pala to. Yung gano'n.
Oh my
So,
God. Ang
minsan,
tagal ko lang din narinig yung term na yan.
oo, hindi mo talaga alam kung anong
Bold.
makukuha mo dun sa movie na yun kasi there's no way for you to check kung safe ba siya.
Oh my God.
So that's it for
Okay.
me, yung species. Mm.
Nakinig lang ako doon pero hindi ako makarelate kasi nung time namin may internet naman tapos pwede
So
nilang makita.
matagal nang may internet pero last month ka lang nag-Twitter.
Yeah. Because
May something
I'm
sa story na may
pure.
mali. May nagsisinungaling.
May mga inconsistencies. Sorry.
Oo, nahuhuli na kita.
Sorry. Ayan.
Ay, ikaw na ulit.
Okay. So my second one, hindi mo to kinurek so it probably means that i-accept mo siya. So this is technically from a TV series. Pero horror themed pa rin naman siya. So I guess pasok pa rin. And this was just recent. Well, not recent, but at least in the 2010s na siya. No? So my second pick is a sex scene from the first season of American Horror Story, which is Murder House. Napad mo na ba to?
True. Yes, of course. Favorite ko yan.
Oo. So you're probably thinking that my sex scene pick is the one with the rubber man or rubber guy. Pero that's not it. Feeling ko yung akin, my pick is the one between Ben and Connie, yung couple, yung parents ni Violet. There's this particular scene kasi doon na parang after they discovered what was kind of going on, tas parang they were talking to each other. And then they did the deed. And then there's this part na may focus sa mukha nila ng nag-I love you sila sa isa't isa. Pero they were like staring blankly with no expression. So parang that was very impactful for me. I don't know, because maybe I was drawn to it because of the story. Siguro carried away. This is very cinematic for me. Parang ganun. Alam mo yung the scene ng two person having a very intimate moment supposedly and they're saying intimate things pero their face says the opposite. Parang ganun. Parang I love you. And then sasabihin sa I love you too. Tapos parang, ala, bakit ganun? Ayan, ang ganda lang. Ang ganda nung effect niya. For me.
True. Alam mo, isa yun sa strengths ng American Horror Story apart from American Horror Story Murder House specifically. Kakaiba siya sa mga ibang seasons kasi it made use of yung mga gantong elements to its advantage. Like, it made use of sex and sexy themes without it being vulgar.
Exactly.
Halimbawa,
Yeah.
ang ganda nung the way they work into the story yung si Rubber Man and how although hindi maganda yung theme of because it's R word, diba? It's
correct.
Pero that's part of the story kasi may there are repercussions to that action later on. And if you remember, merong isang character doon which was specifically made to be sexy, which is si Moira, the housekeeper.
Oh, yes. Is this with the Iranian guy? Or no?
Marami siyang sineduce, di ba? But one of those people na sineduce niya, yung Iranian na tsaka si
Ben.
Si Ben. Ang gustong-gusto ko siya every time she comes on screen. Kasi parang ang sexy talaga niya with her red hair. Tapos yung kanyang outfit. Di naman sa inaano
So you're talking
ko.
about the young Moira naman, di ba?
Hindi yung si
Just
ano.
making sure. Hindi si Frances, di ba?
Hindi si Frances, ano. Yeah,
Conroy.
but yeah, si Alexandra Breckenridge ata yung name niya. Ginugoogle
Oh
ko
my
siya dati
God.
kasi sobrang nagagandahan talaga ako sa
Ang
kanya.
ganda niya talaga.
The outfit, hindi naman sa fetishize natin ang mga taong kailangan magtrabaho as domestic helpers. Pero the outfit
The
really
outfit.
sobra. Tapos and her scenes din na parang double meaning lagi yung mga sinasabi niya.
Mhm.
She's just there to seduce and it really works dun sa setting ng American Horror Story Murder House. Kasi other seasons also have sex, 'di ba? Sexual elements. Like yung part 2, yung sa Asylum, it started with,
Asylum.
'di ba, nagse-sex si Adam Levine and the girl dun sa abandoned mental
Asylum.
hospital, 'di ba? So
Mm-mm.
may elements din ng sex and sa Coven may mga
Lahat na
sex.
actually. All of the season that came after, parang may
Yeah.
How do you say it?
Gratuitous sex. Especially yung
Gratuitous.
scene yung Lady Gaga, her season, vampire kasi,
Freak
di ba?
show. Ay, no. Hotel.
Hotel. Well, setting hotel, tapos they're vampires, which are inherently sexual creatures.
Yeah.
So, may sex talaga. But Murder House really takes the cake.
OG talaga. There's this another one particular scene I can't forget, where Moira was seducing Ben. And then parang Ben was holding back nga, 'di ba, on not giving in, kumbaga. And then the scene that comes after is parang he was hypnotized and then he was masturbating while crying in front of the
sa
window.
fireplace. Ay, tama.
Yeah, 'di ba? That was very haunting. That's how you put sex into the story without it being too, alam mo yun, right in your face, kumbaga.
Ayaw pa naman natin ng mga bulgar. Hello.
Diba? Pero it could be right in my face. I mean, I won't complain. Diba?
Nagka-cum swap na lang din tayo.
Hoy! Comment
Comment
swap.
swap. Sorry.
Hoy!
Ayan.
Good luck talaga kung ma-upload mo to. Pag ito, i-blip mo lahat to. Okay.
So, is that it for American
That's it
Horror
for me.
Story Murder House?
Yeah.
Okay. Sige. Since nasa medyo rin tayo ulit, supernatural na horror, my next on my list is Antichrist by
Lars von
Trier. And syempre pag si Kuya Lars, alam na natin may mga dyan. May
Lars Santiago. Char.
But this one, sabi sa nabasa ko, unsimulated daw yung mga sex scenes dito.
What do you mean by unsimulated?
Hindi siya sinimulate, so totoong nangyari siya. They were really having sex. They were really performing sexual acts with the penetration and everything.
For real?
Yep, may mga ganong movies and may ganon akong DVD collection before, unsimulated na sex in mainstream cinema.
Talaga? I didn't know that was a thing.
Sa Pilipinas nga, meron nun na ron. Yung mga dating pene films, pene ang tawag nila. So, pero hindi siya mainstream. It's bold or some softcore porn. Pero
Softcore.
there's real penetration.
It's not shown, but apparently it's happening talaga.
Yeah, so for more realistic effects, ganyan. Kaya nila ginagawa.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Search mo, unsimulated.
Sige. So, unsimulated yung nasa sa Antichrist? With Willem Dafoe and Charlotte Kineme.
Yun yung nabasa. Si Charlotte, ano nga yun? Gainsbourg.
Ayun. Wow.
Ang description kasi ng scene na to, they were having sex under this tree na biglang naglalabasan yung bahay.
I remember that scene.
And it's a form of them processing their grief over losing their son. And this movie also started with a sex scene kasi nagsisex sila when the son had an accident. And kaya napaka-central ng sex sa movie nito kasi nakikita na niya na mahuhulog yung anak niya. So, from point of view ni Charlotte.
Pero she didn't do anything.
She didn't do anything kasi nag-orgasm siya that moment. And mas pinili niyang tapusin yung orgasm niya more than iligtas yung anak niyang mahuhulog sa balcony. And that scene was just so memorable for me. Apart from the other sex scene, which is yung under the tree.
Yeah. I think
Very
this is more of an erotica eh. Erotica horror na nga to eh. Kasi it was very sexual even for the moments where there are no sex. It was still very sexual. Like the mood, alam mo yun, very dark, very gloomy. Alam mo yun. The tone was very consistent. Mm-mm.
Pero what sets this apart is the purpose of showing those sex acts is, I think for the reason na kailangan nilang ilagay sa story yung sex, not for masturbatory purposes ng mga manunod. Because
I don't think
Willem
anyone could.
Dafoe,
Yeah, I don't think anyone would be doing that on that
hindi na kasi
scene.
nilalait natin sila, pero they're not meant for, hindi yun yung bentahe nila. And si Charlotte Gainsbourg, parang,
Oh,
these
Charlotte's
are
hot.
not conventionally,
Hoy, don't undermine Charlotte. She's hot. She was on like
Hindi-
Nymphomaniac. She was
yeah, pero
hot
hindi,
there.
hindi ko sinasabi na hindi siya attractive. Pero if you were to just put a mindless sex scene, gagamit ka ng tao na more conventionally appealing. Someone na really made for
And
sex on
hello, the
screen.
scenes itself like already explains that. Like,
Hindi siya,
diba? It's
hindi
not
siya
supposed to be
typical.
arousing.
True. That's
It's
what
supposed to be
sets it apart.
disturbing.
Mhm. Tama. And there are other Lars von Trier the movies which also explore sex in different
Yeah,
uh,
definitely.
Nymphomaniac. If kung kaya mong manood ng ilang oras na puro sex lang ang nangyayari, then go ahead. Ayun. Ikaw, yeah, of course. Ikaw pa ba ron?
2 volumes yun.
Oo nga.
Imagine mo, it
Pero,
was like 2 hours each volume. Yeah.
Grabe. Isa siyang exploration into
The things I do for cinema talaga, diba?
Tama. That's why you have a movie podcast.
Correct.
So that's it for me. Antichrist by Lars von Trier.
Okay. Gusto ko yung, alam mo, I was really worried about this topic before we started. Kasi, wait, shit lang. Paano natin pag-uusapan yung mga favorite sex scenes natin sa movies?
Oo.
I was afraid that it would seem very, ano yun, parang ganyan. Pero in fairness naman pala, napakagandang, discourse.
Of course, ako yung kausap mo eh. Char.
Not sure about that. But anyway, moving on. So my next pick, is American Psycho. I think very, very memorable for everyone. I think even for people who has not seen the film might be familiar with the scene that I'm talking about. So there's this particular scene. I don't know if it's technically a sex scene na though, because it kind of is pa rin kasi it was after they did it. So there was this scene where Patrick Bateman was doing the deed with two body entrepreneurs, women, and they were all naked, and then he decided to off them off, both. So imagine the scene where Christian Bale, hot as F, and he is naked, sweaty and bloody, with chainsaw, chasing these two women in an apartment hallway, diba? Sobrang hot. At the same time, like parang you're kind of weird, like, why do you find this hot? May mga ganong, mga thinking before when I saw this. Am I disturbed? Or maybe this is their point. Like, yung katulad siguro na sinasabi mo kanina, Tito Glenn, na parang, maybe this is the boundaries that they're trying to push for. Like, they're trying to cross the line between sexy and bloody in the middle, so that sometimes you find things that are not supposed to be hot as hot. Alam mo yun?
Yeah.
Diba?
True. Maybe
Ayun,
because nasanay tayo sa mga serial killers and slashers like si Jason Voorhees, sino pa ba? Na,
si Mike Myers,
yeah,
si
na
Freddy Krueger.
unattractive, na scary, and hindi mo talaga may isipan ng anything sexy, and then you flip that and you cast this actor, young actor, which is Christian Bale, na yung katawan niya doon, di ba? And yung character niya mismo,
Medyo hawig nga kami ng katawan doon kasi parang feeling ko pareho kami ng diet na ginagawa. Naka
alright,
no
that's it
rice
for our
din yata.
episode today. Thank you so much.
Hayop ka.
Lokohan na to. So,
Dog show. Hayop ka. Anyway, okay, go.
yun. So I think it's the character. That's why. Siguro yung na-perceive mo sa kanya, why is this hot? Why is this attractive? It's
Mm-mm.
part of the formula. Parang veering away from the usual serial killer, pangit, monster,
Yeah,
trope into.
may sense. Parang oo nga, no? And the whole film is kasi on his perspective din or in his perspective rather. So kaya,
Diba? And number one narcissist siya. So in his point of view, I'm this sex god. Ganyan. Parang
that's a
ikaw
good point.
lang.
Sex god?
Yung mga pinagkikikwento mo na, mo.
Hoy, I don't know what you're talking about.
Ah.
Ayun. Anyway, next pick. Yeah, ganun. Oh, pero that's a good point. Yeah, I like that. That's
And
interesting.
if you flip that further and make it a female, parang femme fatale na Black Widow ang dating. Someone na hungry for sex and then kills their partners. I think we just can't name one right now, pero I'm sure may mga ganong movies.
Marami.
Or Under the Skin. Si
Scarlett
Johansson. And although alien siya doon, but that's the main point of the movie. Ganun lang ginawa niya the whole movie.
Pero alam mo, no? That actually, now I realized why I didn't pick any of those scenes. Kasi napaka-memorable din ng mga doon, ng mga scenes doon.
Oh, di ba? And
Sobra.
not to spoil, pero sige na spoil na din natin. But every time she has sex with some random dude, they wake
She
up
peels
in
off her skin.
And
this void.
Nagigising sila dun sa parang underwater, pero walang water and they're just floating.
Parang siyang void lang siya. Dark void.
True. Tapos, and they're just naked. Ayun, may, Ron, male nudity frontal.
Yeah.
And suddenly, bigla sila magde-deflate and skin na lang yung matitira. And ang creepy, nakakatakot,
Sobra.
I don't know how they pulled those effects off. Pero sobrang subtle kasi nung movie na to. And at times, medyo, ano pa mangyayari dito? Parang paulit-ulit lang. Parang ganun. But then, you go to the ending, which is, ang ganda. Basta,
This is art. Yeah. Sobra.
True. And Scarlett, iba yung character niya doon. Grabe.
In fairness.
Ano nga tawag sa kanya? Yung
Asian Queen.
Multiracial
Queen.
Multiracial.
sobrang galing niya mag-portray. She was even able to portray an intergalactic character. Diba? USB as well. The representation, diba?
Siya yung boses sa Her, diba? So, naging AI na rin siya.
True, diba? Diversity.
Ang galing. I love it.
So, every time may mention siya, kailangan talaga binabash siya, no?
Hindi naman. Pero may mga choices kasi na questionable, di ba?
That's true.
Yeah, we get it. Talented ka naman. But there are other actresses naman siguro can pull that off na hindi problematic. Yung casting.
Casting, yeah.
Ayun. Anyway. Ayan na ba for
Yeah. What's yours? What's your next one?
Next for me is, asan na ako? Ito, slasher to. Medyo mindless lang din to. And it's just for pure fun. Hostel.
Ay, oo. The best yan.
Well, kaya din nasa story yung sex is because they specifically went to Amsterdam looking for sex. And dun sila nakakita nung someone invited them to this remote spa village. May resort, may parang
ano yata, sa Czech yan, Czechoslovakia yata siya.
Yeah.
Or I think I'm thinking of part 2. Pero alam ko same setting siya sa 1 so dapat isang lugar lang. Sa Czechoslovakia yata siya.
Yeah, and well, the idea was that sobrang layo niya and wala silang kakilala doon. It's just a person who invited them, and apparently pagdating nila doon, the whole town was in on it doon sa modus na yun, parang ganun, which is
because it's their parang
yung
mode of profit.
Yun, yung livelihood nila, yung
livelihood,
yung
Gusto
ano,
mo
to
livelihood.
lure tourists and then use them as ano, targets for this group of
Auction.
rich people na naghahanap ng papatayin for
Mm.
sport, 'di ba? So, kaya nandun yung sex. And even as a hostel too, there's a memorable scene there where yung young character na sinabit siya patiwarik and she was naked.
Kay Heather Matarazzo. Which was weird seeing
Was
because
that her?
she was in Princess Diaries and she was, di ba, Mia's best friend
Oh.
there.
Tapos
Tapos
biglang
biglang,
naganto siya.
di ba? And that was a tribute to, that scene was specifically a tribute to Elizabeth Bathory.
Yeah,
Di ba? It's
because
a famous story where
bathing in
she
blood.
bathes in blood, yeah,
Mm.
for
Ang
the
ganda.
youth,
Although
M.
it's not sex per se, but it's really sexual.
Sexy.
Yung
See,
dating
that's
niya.
another crossing the line thing.
And I love Hostel. Comfort movie ko siya for some reason. Alam mo, pagka naghahanap ka ng movies, ang dami mong bagong movies, ang dami sa Netflix, pero hindi mo feel lahat. And then you look through your hard drives and makikita, ay may Hostel, ito na lang ulit.
Mm-mm.
Titingnan ko lang yung first 10 minutes, parang gano'n. Then,
Kala ko yung mga scenes
natapos
eh.
mo na. Hindi. Pero, ang gustong-gusto ko siya, alam mo, for some reason, gustong-gusto ko yung part na nag-enjoy pa lang sila. Yung papunta pa lang sila dun
Yung
sa spa.
masaya.
Yung masaya pa. Knowing what happens next. Parang gano'n. Parang, sige,
Napaka-dark kasi
enjoyin
nun
nyo
eh.
lang.
Pero I think we've mentioned this already. Kasi di ba
Mm.
pinag-usapan yata natin to sa ano mo? Sa iceberg episode natin with you
Yung-
on your podcast. Di ba? Tama ba? Itong hostel. Kasi si Ellie Roth, yung gumawa nito, he based this from a real life experience where he saw a website, and I think this was in Thailand. Way back pa to, like 2000 pa, nung nakita niya. So parang very seedy. Where in Thailand, parang, or a website that he found based in Thailand, na parang you can buy someone and you can do whatever you want to do with that person. Ganun.
Yeah, I
So
think
dun
mentioned mo nga before.
Doon yun nakuha yung idea.
And ngayon ko lang na-realize na itong mga selections ko pala dito ay mga napag-usapan na rin natin mga movies
Sa
dati.
iceberg yung iba. Kasi disturbing siya. Oh my God.
Totoo. True. Antichrist, Hostel, ganyan.
Diba?
So, ayun. Pero yun nga, gustong-gusto ko tong Hostel.
Comfort film?
Yan.
Sa bagay, ako
Fun-
comfort
it's
film
fun
ko
for
Scream. So, kumbaga, I can't judge you, diba?
Well, Scream, another slasher film na marami ring, Sydney Prescott. She had frontal din dun, di ba?
Wala.
Wala ba? Parang I remember kasi they were making fun of, yun nga, yung sex scene tropes sa
She
mga
had
horror
sex
movies.
on the final part of the film, which supposedly dapat hindi na siya yung final girl kasi hindi na siya. Which is why I think Scream is a genius talaga. Kasi diba, they played on the trope na parang, oh my God, she just had sex. She's not a virgin anymore, diba? Pero she was still the final girl. Pero yeah, I don't think there was any frontal on any franchise of Scream.
Wala.
I don't think there was even a thorough 6. Parang wala. I can't remember, honestly. And I've seen all of them several times.
Illusion ko lang pala na naghubad si Neve Campbell.
Baka, more of fantasy, baka ganun. Wag mo sanang i-project. There is a thin line between reality and fantasy. So, ayun.
Pero ay strength talaga ng Scream ang pagiging self-aware niya. I love
Meta.
it.
I think it invented meta before there was even a huge thing in there was meta in horror films. Ngayon kasi parang sobrang na siya, taken for granted na yung meta ngayon sa mga movies. Like casual na lang siya, kunya banggitin yung ibang titles ng movie dito sa film na to. Or mag-reference sila ng character sa series or sabihin nila yung word na Netflix. Alam mo yun, parang tipong pag pinanood mo parang, uy wow, they're like just us, yung mga ganon.
Alam nila. True.
Pero kasi before, it wasn't like that. Diba? So talagang genius talaga yung Scream dyan.
May mga movies who did the meta thing well. Like yung Cabin in the Woods. Tama ba?
Oh yeah, definitely. Marami. Dale and Tucker versus Evil.
Yeah, isa pa yan. Tama. Yeah. Ang galing na.
Final Girls. Alam mo yun?
Si Abigail Breslin. Yes.
No, that's Final Girl.
Ay, iba pa 'tong
Final
Final Girls.
Girls.
Okay.
Mas maganda yung Final Girls. Final Girls is with Taisa Farmiga, si Violet sa American Horror Story, where they went inside a horror movie and they had to play on the. Oh my God, don't tell me hindi mo pa ito napapanood.
Hindi pa, but
You have to watch
yeah,
this, Tito Glenn. Sobrang funny. Maganda siya. Like, think of scary movie, para it's more structured.
sige.
Maganda.
Send mo
I think
sa'kin
it's
sa
on
Telegram.
Netflix. No,
Nasa
it's on Netflix.
Okay, good.
Anong Telegram? How could you? What are you talking about?
Yung trailer. Send mo
Ay,
sa'kin
trailer.
yung link sa trailer sa Telegram para mapanood
Hayop
ko sa
ka.
sa YouTube.
Pero maganda siya. Yeah. Ayun. So, ayan, dahil dyan, moving on with my next pick naman is, actually, dalawa to. So, parang, ano lang kasi siya, very similar lang yung scene niya. So, I'll just mention both of them. So, Hatchet and Dark Ride.
Hot
Because,
shit?
Hatchet,
A hot shit.
Hot Shit,
Kaya ka hot shit.
Hatchet, tsaka Dark Ride.
Mm.
Because, paano ko ito sasabihin? Tangina na. Okay, sige. Bahala ka na dito talaga mag-edit pag dito na ano. Pero basically, both of these scenes involves decapitation.
Mm.
So with Hatchet, so two people are having sex doggy style, and then the guy was decapitated while he was, doing the girl. And then the girl had no idea, like she was having fun pa all this time.
Hala.
Wala na pala. Yeah. Decapitated na pala yung guy. And it's
My
like,
God. So, paano
maybe,
gumagalaw pa rin? Or just the body, ano?
gumagalaw yung pa rin. Kasi tsaka, di ba kapag ang katawan is parang hindi, I'm thinking of another term. Pero parang yung manok, pag pinagutan mo ng ulo, kumikiwal-kiwal.
Tumatakbo pa, nagsispasm.
Yeah! So,
Yung-
spasm.
Mm.
So, parang ganon. And then, excuse me.
Shit.
And then sa Dark Ride naman, it was a horror movie set in theme parks. So there's a scene there where there are two people again, a couple na parang they had to stop. Tapos parang the girl went down on the guy. So diba she was doing her thing. And then yung lalaki has no idea naman that the girl was already decapitated by the killer.
Tapos?
So, sarap na sarap pa rin yung lalaki, not knowing na decapitated na yung ulo sa kanya.
Parang wala ka ng gag reflex, ha? Parang ganun
Parang,
eksena.
sarap na, parang gano'n. Tapos paghawak niya ng ulo, ay,
Oh my
na-detach. Sabi yung gano'n. What happened? Imagine,
Sabay
no?
tawa.
Oh, pero my God, that was hot as well. But not before the decapitated part, of course. Pero the scene was very hot. I remember.
True.
I remember like also watching it at like 1 a.m. just because I wanted to see it again. I want to dissect the scene. Ganyan. Ayun.
That's another prime example of a horror movie mixing with the sex so seamlessly. Kasi how else could you pull that off without the movie being in the horror genre, di ba?
Diba?
Hindi mo magagawa yan sa comedy. It's too much. Di ba? Kahit sabihin mong dark comedy.
At saka like sometimes I think like how could you think of something like this?
May
Sometimes
inspiration siguro from real
Believe
life.
talaga ako sa mga like how could you be a functioning human being and think, well, you know what would be a good scene in a film? A girl being decapitated while blowing someone. Diba? Like, how do they come up with these ideas? Like, it really, of course, it really makes for an entertaining scene. Pero, oh my God.
True.
I'm worried
But
for you.
there is a real life serial killer, si Ed.
Ed Gein.
Yeah, na pinutulan niya ng ulo yung mom niya. Then he had sex with the head.
Oh my God,
Kasi-
that I didn't know. I know Ed Gein was the inspiration for Patrick Bateman, right?
Sorry, Ed
Norman
Gein-
Bateman.
Si Ed Gein pala yung yung wearing the skin. Si Ed Camper pala, sorry, it's another Ed. Serial killer din siya.
Kagulat ako eh.
His
Kasi
name
alam ko
is
si Ed Gein yung may belt made of nipples.
yung summer collection. Fashionista yun eh.
Oo,
Gumagawa
may
siya ng
couch pa
mga
siya. Very upholstery and all.
yeah.
Oy, pero hindi ko alam yung kay Ed Camper. Oh my God, that's really fucked up.
Well, they had mommy issues to put it lightly. Pero yun, nag-revenge siya sa nanay niyang abusive. And that's what he did. Medyo nga lang talaga. So if baka yun yung nag-inspire dyan sa horror movies naman are usually inspired by real life events. Minsan,
Grabe
they
na
just
disturb
put
ako ng
some twist
malala.
in it.
I can't imagine it
Yeah.
happened in real life.
And mas dark in real life, diba? Because, yeah. Anyway. Ayan.
Okay.
Ang
Things
ganda
just
niyan, ang ganda
got
niyan dalawang
into
movies na yan. So, we're learning about new films that we can check out. Salamat.
I mean, any obscure horror films talaga, I've seen it.
I love it.
Hatchet, though, is a good one. I think Hatchet is much more known because it was created specifically as a tribute for the 80s horror movie. Like, if you watch it, don't expect too much because it's really gory, promise, really gory, bloody to the point that it's kind of hilarious. Pero it's a tribute definitely for the cheesy B camp horrors way back. And dahil nga tribute siya, lahat ng mga iconic horror actors are here. Like yung mga stunt doubles nila Jason, nila Freddy. Nandito si Robert Englund, nandito si Kane Hodder. Yung mga iconic horrors talaga. Iconic horror icons. Redundant. Horror icons. Bobo si tanga. Wala na maisip na word. Mga horror icons. Again.
Basta, yun sila.
Ayun. Iconic horror icons. Bakit?
Yeah. Parang kasing parang sobrang golden days ng horror ang 80s.
Oo.
Dun talaga.
Although hindi ko siya naabutan na, pero I imagine it must be. Can you tell us the experience, Tito Glenn?
Excuse me, 90s, batang 90s ako. Speaking of the 90s, this last movie, change topic.
Master of transition.
This last movie came out in the 90s and sobrang hindi ko to makalimutan. It's my ultimate favorite horror movie and it happened to have a really memorable sex scene. Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay.
Not
I haven't
sure.
seen that though.
Oh my God. Ito yung panoorin
But I've
mo.
seen the scene.
No, watch the whole movie because it's the shit. I mean, the practical effects.
Talaga?
Yung ganda ng
Who played
atmosphere.
Dracula?
Gary Oldman. My God.
For real?
Ang galing niya.
I know
Sobra.
the was played by Monica Bellucci, pero
Tsaka
ang galing. I didn't know it was.
Si Francis Ford Coppola ang nag-direct and instead of resorting to cheap green screen effects, yung mga effects dito ginawa nilang practical studio effects talaga.
Oo,
And
Coppola yan eh.
ma-amaze ka talaga what they were able to achieve sa isang movie that was made in the 90s when they had limited technology. Tapos ang galing, it was so worth yung effort nila because the actors really gave their best performances. Well, except Keanu Reeves kasi medyo yung kanyang
Ito ba yun? Ito ba yung movie na sobrang bashed siya dahil sa weird accent
napaka-wooden
niya?
na. Oo. Pero si Gary Oldman, my God, worthy of your admission ticket. Grabe. And he still gives me nightmares sometimes yung pagkaka-portray niya. But the sex scene though is where there's this scene where si Keanu Reeves, he was being seduced by these three wives of Dracula, mga vampires sila. They were trying to turn him into one of them. So, of course, vampires, papunta na kagad sa sex yan when you're trying to turn someone, di ba? May mga pagsasak
That's how they seduce kasi.
Yeah, so very sexual. The whole thing is very sexual. Yung susugatan mo, sisipsipin mo yung dugo, papainuin mo siya ng dugo mo. It's so symbolic kasi. So, nandun sila sa isang bed and there were three of them performing these sexual acts sa kanya. And one of them nga is si Monica Bellucci. Na parang, nagulat ako, dito pala siya. Ganun. Kasi napanood ko to nung bata ako and then napanood ko yung mga ibang
So cameo
movies
lang
niya.
si Monica Bellucci dito?
Oo, yeah, cameo lang
Akala
siya.
ko
Isa
ano
lang siya
siya,
sa
lead
hindi siya
role.
hindi. Very short lang yung scene niya dito. So nung napanood ko si Monica Bellucci and other films after and then binalikan ko yung Dracula, doon ko napansin, ay, isa pala siya sa mga wives. Ang ganda. I love it. Ayun. So,
Ang galing.
very very artistic naman. And meron din isang scene where this character, yung best friend nung bida, she was being R-worded by an animal. Si Dracula
Ew.
in his animal form.
Talaga? As what?
A wolf. So medyo disturbing siya for a 90s na movie. And there was so much blood, so
It is
much
still disturbing now. What more pa
mm,
in the 90s, no?
true. So
Buti this didn't gain some controversy when it came out.
I think it did. There was initial pushback nung talagang pinalabas to that time. But then again, yung kanyang quality as a horror movie
Stood
eclipses
out pa rin.
yung mga ganong parts. And it
Talaga?
hanggang
Sige nga,
ngayon it's
panoorin
like
ko nga to.
maganda pa rin siya until I think sana nasa Netflix siya. Pero yeah.
I doubt. Pero I don't think so. Pero I'll check.
There are ways.
I don't
Napapanood mo.
know.
Wow.
Netflix lang kasi ako. Pagpanggap ang puta.
Yeah. So that's my
Okay.
last entry about you.
Okay, my last pick is very, very camp and
Mm.
very cheesy. It's not supposed to be taken seriously. And that's the reason why it's on my pick. It's on my list. And it's Bride of Chucky. And again,
Okay.
for everyone listening or watching this, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. Hello, sex between dolls. Need I say more?
Ito ba yung may
Diba?
parang cum? Parang
No,
may
that
naalala
was
akong
different
ganun.
pa. May
Iba
scene
pa.
na ganyan.
Mm.
Pero, Bride of Chucky, so this is between Ray Bradbury. Ay, no. Saan ba? Ray Bradbury? Oh my God, I forgot his name. Oh, yeah, Ray Bradbury and Jennifer Tilly. So, they're in their doll forms, both of them na. And parang nag-propose si Chucky sa kanya. So before they did this, parang, alam ko they killed a couple pa nga in the waterbed. Parang gano'n. So, I don't know what came first. But it's definitely Chucky. Pero it's been, like the scene, how it played out, I don't remember exactly what came first. Like, if they killed the couple first before they did the act. But the act itself is so hilarious kasi parang, alam mo yun, they only showed glimpse of like parts of their body and then like the shadow.
Yeah.
Parang, it's like, I can't imagine. I mean, parang, what the hell am I watching? Like, is this something that, alam mo yun, parang I should be seeing? Parang ganun. Sometimes you question yourself na parang, oh, what the hell am I
Okay pa
watching?
ba
The
ako?
films, oo, exactly. Parang the films that I've been seeing, parang,
Hindi na
I think
tama
this
to.
is not, this is not morally correct anymore.
Wow.
It already, kumbaga morally corrupting na siya. But it's
Mm.
fucking fun and it's entertaining, diba?
Guess,
And I
yun yung,
think if you know John Waters has a cameo. I think he was the one, parang he was the paparazzi who kind of saw this from the outside window. So parang nakakatawa lang. Like, parang,
yikes.
parang siya parang, diba parang he completely represents the like
Yung
our
reaction.
reaction as an audience. Like parang, what the fuck? Ganun lang, literal. What am I looking at? Parang ganun. So yeah, yun.
Nakakatawa kasi ang Chucky franchise being campy, strength niya talaga yun eh. Parang you
Diba?
have these dolls tapos wreaking havoc sa mga tao in unspeakable ways. Para nakakatawa siyang imagine. So it's good fun. Kaya siya, it's set apart from other
And I think that only became
slashers.
after like the first one. Kasi the first one was very, very dead serious.
Mm.
It was very, it was tense, it was horrific, it was scary. And then like after yung second ganun din eh. And then the third one and all the, all the series that came out after was campy na and funny. So,
Yeah. Go.
And I was only about to say, naging serious lang ulit siya nung bumalik na siya, nung nireboot siya kasama yung anak niya, yung anak ni Chucky.
Seed of Chucky.
Hindi, like yung anak ni
Iba pa
nang
yun?
nag-portray kay Chucky in real life. Yung Pilay, yung naka-wheelchair. Have you seen that?
No.
It was the one that came before Cult of Chucky. Cult of Chucky yung very recent, before the Audrey Plaza. See, I'm losing track of all of the franchise na. Kasi ang dami nang lumabas under Chucky.
Ang last kong napanood sa franchise was the one with Tiffany Amber Thiessen ba yun?
Sino yun?
Yung Bride of Chucky, I think. Teka.
Jennifer Tilly?
Hindi. Yung may Tiffany na character.
Si Jennifer Tilly nga.
Siya ba yun?
Si Tiffany yun, di ba? Yung bride niya. Oh my God, ang tagal-tagal na nun. Meron pang Seed of Chucky. May Cult of Chucky. Tapos meron pang yung Chucky na kay Audrey Plaza.
Oh, yun yung last ko napanood.
Sorry. 2000, anong year pa yun? 2009? 2007?
1998.
Bride of Chucky?
Kaka-check ko lang ngayon. 1998 siya. Ang saya.
Oh my God! 1998 pa pala to.
Sana ilagay ito sa Netflix ng kompleto na. Ang sarap nito yung marathon. Nakakatawa.
Oo, alam mo, I think this is a good fun movie. Like, yung pang-group. Like, ang saya-saya niya lang.
Tama, ito yung perfect na group movie to watch. Yung you don't have to pay attention to the details that much, pero enjoyin mo yung mga chase, yung mga fights.
Diba? And it's gonna be a fun drinking game as well then.
True.
Meron pang series na ng Chucky ngayon. I think it's on FX.
Meron.
Yeah.
Alam mo, kasi
kaya pala,
go.
Go.
Ang trend na napansin ko, okay, sa franchise, magsisimula sa isang one really successful movie na series, and then they add to it na gagawin na nilang campy, magbabago yung direction ng tone, ganyan. And then, kapag ganito, ngayon na gagawin during these times, gagawing series or another movie, babalik sa sobrang dark, sobrang seryoso na naman. And which is, parang hindi mo na tuloy alam kung ano yung direction niya kasi naging funny na siya before, tapos gagawin mo siyang dark ulit. And minsan unnecessary, but sometimes it works.
Exactly. I think it happened to all of the famous franchises in the 90s or 80s. Like, Friday the 13th in space. Can you imagine how campy that is? Jason X, diba? And then Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street. Para he was supposed to be really scary dun sa first one, and then parang come fourth or fifth installment in the franchise, he was cracking jokes here and there, diba? I think Halloween lang yung nagstay ng dark talaga from the start. Yeah. Not necessarily good, pero it stayed dark from the start.
Yeah, yun talaga yung ano niya.
Leprechaun, di ba? Leprechaun was very scary at first, and then parang patagal, parang nakakaloka na, sobrang very, parang kulang na si Danny DeVito na yung mag-play kay Leprechaun sa sobrang funny niya, di ba?
Parang horror comedy kasi siya. Parang yun ang naaalala ko sa Leprechaun. Lalo na yung part 2.
Latter parts.
Yung parang straight to DVD ata yung Leprechaun. Yung In the Hood. Napanood mo ba yun?
Part 3 yata yun, In the Hood.
Leprechaun's 3 In the Hood. Ganyan. Ang umpisa niya, sex scene. Naalala ko.
Oo. I remember. Napanood ko yun sa VCD.
Napanood ko yun sa cable.
Diba? Sobrang luma na niya. Pero yun nga, yung umpisa ng Leprechaun, though may mga may mga iconic lines, it wasn't supposed to like focus on that as humor or as comedy. Yung mga sumunod, as in very slapstick na kasi yung naging dating.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do make a great point. Yeah. Tapos reboot is magiging returning back to its roots, eme-emerald, ganyan.
Tapos kukuha ng song from the 80s, something upbeat, pero gagawing dark, yung moody yung song, ganyan.
Or you're going techno, para lalagay sa trailer.
Yun na nga. Yung parang biglang, wow, iba na naman yung...
modern, like, just to put a modern spin to it, diba?
Pero pagka paulit-ulit na, naging trend na siya, parang medyo bawas na yung impact niya. Anyway, I think meron ka pang isa, sabi mo na gusto mong, parang your bonus, Your bonus movie.
Gusto mo ba? Kasi it's very dark as well. And
Sige na,
like,
pag-usapan na natin.
I think you've seen this as well, and we've talked about this iceberg episode din natin. So, feeling ko questionable talaga yung ano natin yung konsepto natin. Kasi we're supposed to talk about sex scenes, pero parang nag-ano tayo, cross tayo ng line between disturbing and bloody and gory. Pero sabagay, that's, we're talking about horror movie, so it's really inevitable. Pero, Salo, or Salo, however you pronounce it, or 180 Days of Sodom. Definitely a very, very disturbing film from a very, very disturbing source material.
True.
Very sexual as well, given the circumstances where the premise was literally about naked teenagers captured or in captivity from fascists. And may part lang talaga doon na I found sexy.
Which was?
So, that's another thing lang na again, I just question myself, like, why do I find this hot? Oh my God. Ayoko masyado siya.
Maka-cancel ka ba dito?
Oo, baka lumabas yung mga kink ko. Sabi nila, oh my God. Parang, there's something hot about
eating poop?
That's not...
Kasi meron doon, di ba?
Why do you have to expose me like that? Char! Hindi. Yeah, like, yung dom part, like the dom context, like parang having an extreme control over someone and then commanding them to do something that you want and then them having no way to decline. That's the hot part for me, like the control part. Pero other than that, like the things that they did, that was very disturbing.
Okay. Linawin lang natin na we're not advocating for forced,
Consent is the key, guys. Again, consent is the key. Regardless of what you do in bed, we don't fucking care. We don't judge as long as you are both consenting adults. Like, trust me, I'm not one to judge. Like, I have really, really weird things about that.
Alam na natin yan.
Yes. Alam ko rin yung sa'yo. Gusto mo bang expose ko? Wait lang. Let me just scroll my Telegram. Charot. Pwede ba mag-share screen dito? Ayan.
Oh my God.
Sige.
Nako, shout out kay Mutya.
Oy!
Mutya.
Kadiri ka.
Bakit green? Anyway.
Napakababoy.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you're sick. Char.
Sobrang hirap hanapin yung video na yon, but I challenge you hanapin yung Mutya. Bakit green?
So, sobrang hirap hanapin pero na-share mo pa rin siya sa akin. Nakakainis.
Well, the first time na encounter ko yun, sinave ko kagad. Sabi, send ko to.
Yuck!
So, I'll send this to my friends.
Like, if there is a way for you to unwatch something, this would definitely one of those.
Hala, hindi. Ang saya nito. Take my word for it.
Kadiri ka. Di pa ako kumakain.
Mapapaisip ka talaga, bakit nga ba siya green? Anyway. Yeah, Salo, I read the source material. I can't remember kung natapos ko yung movie or hindi.
For real?
Pero binasa ko yung kay Marquis de Sade na yung sulat niya. And it's just
Talaga
parang
ba?
page after page of just pure
sickness.
Yes. And alam mo ang one thing I can say, nagsimula siya na mild. Pa-escalate. Ganun lang yung niya. Ganun lang siya. Yung trajectory. That's the whole story. And at some point, when I started eating poop na, tumigil na ako. Hindi ko na kaya. Hindi ko na tinapos yung
That was it for you. That was the line.
Parang, hindi ko kaya talaga yun.
I'm curious. Gusto ko try basahin.
No kink shaming. Akala ko gusto mong matry, pero...
Gago?
No kink
What makes you think you haven't yet?
Ay!
Kadiri. Joke lang po. Joke lang. Baka maniwala sila. Yeah, kadiri. Hindi na to yan.
Huwag nating husgahan hanggat di natin nasusubukan.
Kadiri.
Diba?
Yuck.
Baka ka naman. O yung baka ma-offend yung mga into...
Ay, sorry.
Oops.
For me lang. This is just my personal opinion, diba? You can also find the things I find sexy disgusting.
Tama.
But I won't take offense to it.
And as long as yung ginagawa nyo ay, ano, yun nga, with consent, hindi kayo pinipersa, hindi kayo namimersa, then go for it. Pero isipin nyo, dirty.
So that's
Hospital
why.
dun.
Yeah. Baka naman may mga procedure na sila sinisigurado, parang ganun.
Ginagawa.
Para ma-ensure na they're both safe. I think in the way it works for like, ayoko mag-explain kasi this is gonna be very ano na. Ayun.
Oh my God.
Baka dirty na ng episode na to. Ayun.
Hindi, napaka-educational nga. Thank you so much, Ron, Tito Ron, sa informative. Ang dami mong insights pagdating talaga sa sex. I mean, sa horror.
Horror! Diba? Kaya nga,
ganda.
I put the hoe in horror talaga. So,
Yeah, sorry.
if you wanna talk about anything, yeah. Rourke fan.
I love it. Thank you so much. That's the final pick in our comment swap. So we're at the end of our episode. Thank you so much, Ron. Is there anything that you would like to promote para masundan ka ng mga natin?
I swear I'm not usually like this on our episode. On our podcast. Sorry if you are judging me. I'm usually decent, pero sometimes talaga some particular people brings out talaga some parts in you that you don't wanna show. But I really had fun in this episode, no? Pero yun, if you guys would like to hear how we review or talk about films, and we talk about anything under the sun, no? So it could be a horror film, a local film, rom-com, drama, biopics, superhero, not so much, but we do review on some superhero films as well. Visit us on our podcast. Our podcast is at Cinephiles. And we are on social media. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our sockmeds are at CinephilesPod, CINEFILESPOD. And on my Twitter as well, if you're interested, I am not Ron Rayton. That's NOT. No, that's NTRNRYTN. And on Letterboxd, last. If you are on Letterboxd, I'm on Letterboxd at Ron Writes. And dami social media.
NOT.
NOT ba? Hindi ko kabisado. Hindi ko kasi siya pinaplug usually. NOT pala. NOTRNRYTN, di ba? Anong purpose ng pagtatago ko sa Twitter tapos biglang ipa-plug mo? Ayan. Pero I feel safe naman in Creepsilog fan base. And wag lang sana mayroon akong ka-work na makakita nito or something like that. So baka hindi na nila ko irespeto.
Saan ka ba nag-work at nang may-send ko yung link sa mga office mates?
Gago. Hayop
sa BGC ka, di ba?
Hindi. Lumipat na ako. Sa QC na ako.
Oy, tama. Cinephiles Pod always been one of my favorite podcasts. Go-to ko yan when it comes to movies. Yes, and which is why every time magsasabi kayo ng tara collab tayo, go ka agad. Wala nang
In fairness,
wala nang
alam mo ba, sobra. We go really way back. Like, we did this collaboration with you, like, when we were just starting. Imagine, like, yung collab natin, like, episode, I'm not sure, hindi ko na ma-recall, like, episode 7 or 8 yata, and we are on our 60th episode now. So, imagine, di ba?
Hindi pa tayo nag-aaway-aaway, di ba?
Oo, wala pang issue noon, ganyan. Wala pang lumalaki yung ulo, gano'n.
Wow!
So, ayun.
So, yeah, check out Cinephiles Pod with Ron and Jerfy. Grabe mga insights dyan. And the way they dissect yung movies. Minsan may spoiler, minsan wala. So it's sinasabi naman pag safe, 'di ba? If it's safe to listen.
Akala ko nire-read mo kami dun sa mga sa part na yun.
Kami kasi usually may spoiler. That's why people don't listen kapag di pa nila napapanood. Kasi they want to enjoy yung movie. And sinasabi naman namin yun. So, yan. And also, when it comes to horror and maasahan nyo talaga si Ron dyan. Even if it's an obscure B-movie na siya lang napanood na yun. Ayan. If you're also not familiar with Creepsilog, baka nakita nyo lang tong video natin sa YouTube, Creepsilog. We also have a podcast streaming exclusively on Spotify. And we're part of Bunk.
Yes.
So, yan. Marami kaming mga bunkmates, other podcasts that you might want to check out. Ang dami dyan. May mga astrology, may mga comedy podcasts.
Yes. For BL contents, if you're into BL.
Ayan. Tama.
Into K-pop.
Marami pa.
Very niche, yeah. Very niche interest.
there's always a podcast for you. Just check out the bunk lineup. And what else?
Definitely.
Yun lang. Just follow us sa Twitter. It's Creepsilog everywhere. And if you want more content like this, let us know. Mag-comment na lang kayo sa baba if you want more movie discussions na parang ganito in this format, comment swap. Gusto niyo mag-comment swap ulit? Let us know para para magawa namin ulit.
I love come and swap talaga. Like, it's
Yes,
the
of
best.
course. Tama. Okay, and that's it for me. Thank you so much, guys. And
Ayun.
Any
Thank you so much for watching and thanks for inviting me here.
thank you, Ron. Thank you, Sir Ron. Bye. Good night.